Hey guys, and welcome back to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel for another interview. I'm Connor, and joining me today is Tiana Lee from Big Shot on Disney Plus. We chat all about the show, playing the character of Destiny, working with John Stamos and the rest of the cast, as well as Tiana's passion for music. If you enjoyed this interview or any of the others on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. So welcome, Tiana, and thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. And obviously, at the moment, I suppose people would know you for playing Destiny Winters on Big Shot for Disney Plus. But I guess before you landed that part, like how far back does your interest in acting go?
Ooh, well, I've always had a love for performing arts in general. I grew up a singer,
Mm,
and then I started in musical theater when I was in like fourth grade. So I've
right,
always kind of loved just being on stage. Like I used to perform at like any family function. I performed all around Orange County because that's where I was raised.
right.
Um, and so when I got to eighth grade, that's when I started professionally acting, and I've kind of just been lucky to keep going ever since. But it runs deep in me. I find that like if I'm not performing or if I'm not acting or just kind of doing what I love, I feel really kind of like empty inside.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose then I guess it's lucky that you're able to find what ends up being your career at such an early age, as opposed to like that long winding journey of figuring out what you want to do, I suppose. Oh yeah, and I guess I'll just say that obviously, you know, on the show you work with those like well-established actors, obviously John Stamos, Jessalyn Gilsig, Yvette Nicole Brown, and as well as David E. Kelly being like the creative mind behind it. So I suppose like how familiar were you with those names going in, and was there any like pressure of because of who they were?
Yeah, well, when we auditioned for it, we had no clue who was going to be attached to it except for David E. Kelly. I
Mm,
mean, and that in itself was like, oh my God, it's a David E. Kelly.
yeah.
But it wasn't until like we kind of all were about to hear if we got the role that we heard that John Stamos was going to be attached to it.
Wow.
And then
Okay.
it wasn't until the first table read that we knew Yvette Nicole Brown was going to be attached to
Mm,
it. So it was definitely a lot of like building things, and like every time it was just like pinch me, like no way, like I'm gonna be acting with these amazing people. So
yeah.
it was definitely, it was like wow, like you still
Mm,
don't believe it even after filming a whole season with them. You're like, that's me on the same screen as John Stamos. Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah. Like, were you a fan of like I guess Full House or Community in terms of like those other projects that they've been in?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with Yvette Nicole Brown. I saw her first, I think, on like Drake and Josh, and she
Yeah.
was hilarious. I didn't really watch Community or Full House, so I
Mm,
knew John Stamos because he's John Stamos. But
yeah.
as far as Yvette, like when I heard I was working with Yvette, I was like, oh my God. And then
Mm,
Jesslyn, I watched Jesslyn on Glee growing up too. So
yeah.
those were definitely a part of my childhood.
For sure. And I suppose in terms of like Destiny, and because you're the actor who's playing her, have you imagined like what her life was like before the events of the show?
I think that Dean, our writer, he did a really good job at kind of like adding in those little bits in the script. So like as an
Mm,
actor, you can kind of pull from those and get an idea of what's authentic and what the storyline really is. She's definitely got a lot going on in terms of like her home life and the things that have happened and like the other kind of factors that was really great for me as an actor to be able to pull
mm,
from and give really nice kind of rounded performances, saying things that aren't actually said.
yeah.
um yeah, I think for sure it comes into a lot of what I chose to do with her is kind of like the little backstory.
Yeah, and I actually spoke to your co-star Cricket recently, and she was kind of telling me about like the audition process being a bit unusual because a bunch of you were auditioning for one part, and then there was like because like she was saying her character was like a fairly late addition, like she wasn't a thing when like initially. So I suppose like from your perspective, how was that process?
I mean, yeah, we all auditioned for Louise, which
Mm,
I think was kind of crazy now to see that how Nell does it compared to how we
yeah.
all planned on initially doing it. And the girl absolutely earned the part. And I think that the writers as well, once they kind of booked us and they put us into the show, as the season goes on, like the writing kind of becomes our actual personalities. And like if you ask Dean about it, he's like, yeah, we kind of did that because you all have such distinct personalities in your real life that it would have been a
Mm,
shame not to kind of bring that into the dynamic we kind of already had. And like even just in our test for getting booked for the show, like we
Yeah.
all had so much chemistry immediately, and I think it really showed, and that's probably played a huge factor in getting us the role.
Yeah, I think I got that sense from like speaking to Cricket, where like you would have met the other girls and early on who would also eventually get cast. So then, as opposed to like all being cast separately and then kind of fingers crossed, hopefully that works out. But yeah, I mean for sure, I think that definitely shows that there's a pre-existing bond between you all. I think that definitely helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something else that Cricket told me actually was that, like, in terms of the pandemic affecting production, like between episodes 4 and 5, it's like where you stopped and where you picked back up again. So, like, on your end, was it like easy or difficult to tap back into Destiny when you came back?
I think honestly it was easier. It was honestly easier because you spent so much time kind of like thinking about it. And what was
Yeah.
kind of helpful was that because we hadn't seen each other for so long, we were trying to find ways to like reconnect or just hang out or talk without actually being together. And so we did a
Mm,
lot of Zooms where we watched the episodes, which you don't get to do a lot. You don't get to watch the episodes as you make them. Usually you just kind of
right.
go through, you make them, and you see them when they come out. And so because we had that quarantine, we got to actually see the episodes. And I think that just seeing, the scenes you're not in, seeing how it's being filmed, seeing how the writing is coming off on the screen, it really helped all of us. We're all like, oh my gosh, I want to make completely different choices now. And so you really understand your character a lot more when you get to actually see what takes they use and how they want the words and how the storylines are progressing
Yeah.
together. So I think it honestly really helped just in terms of like understanding the series a little more.
Yeah, and maybe just to put it into perspective for anyone who's listening, like, so when did you like stop production because of the pandemic, and when were you able to get back? Like, just like the distance of time between those.
Yeah, the fourth episode, I believe,
Mm,
um, and then March like 13th shut down
right.
completely. And then we didn't come back till I think like August. So there was a really solid chunk, and then we didn't even finish the show until February 2021.
Mm,
So yeah, we had started filming, I believe, October of 2019, went all the way
yeah.
till March of 2020. Pandemic started in August of 2020, finished in February of 2021. So 3 calendar years. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
spent a
No,
lot
because
of time together.
yeah, because I spoke to Jesselyn Gilsig as well, and that's how she put it, like 3 calendar years. And I didn't know that because she was the first person I spoke to from the show, and I didn't know that going in until she mentioned it. And I mean, that's the like the time spent filming a first season, which is like crazy in hindsight, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dean was like, "This is the longest first season I've ever filmed," and he's been around for a while. He did
Mm.
Arrested Development all the way back then, so it's definitely we've learned some new things thanks to this pandemic. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, and obviously, I suppose because like the show focuses on a basketball team, you're kind of introduced to a lot of characters at the same time. But I would say, from my perspective, I think Destiny kind of stood out quite early on from the beginning, just because obviously she's got that resonance with Marvyn. That she was kind of the one who started the process of him
Yeah.
being more emotionally vulnerable. So I suppose like when you realised like you would have that kind of role to help his shift into someone more relatable to the team. Like, what was your feeling about that?
I felt really I felt very honored to begin with, just
Mm,
because, talking about body image and especially in a way that it affects you, and then standing up and showing girls, hey, you can stand up too. You should stand up. These are
mm,
things that if someone says them to you, they're not okay. I felt really proud to have been able to have that in my career. But then also to kind of be able to be a part of that storyline that's so important to kind of the bones of a Big Shot. It's a redemption story for Marvyn Korn. It's a redemption story for honestly all the girls. It's a redemption story to get to D2. I
mm.
felt honestly really like pretty important, I guess you could say, because that's the whole point. It's a story about kind of taking the things around you and being accepting to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, when I was speaking with Jesselyn, we kind of briefly mentioned like life at Westbrook, like pre Marvyn Korn, and I suppose like how do you think the girls' relationship was with the previous coach and their reaction to the new guy coming in?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever really thought of that actually.
Mm,
I think it was definitely something that we felt very respected by him or her, whoever the
mm,
previous coach was,
yeah.
because you know, the way that we respond to not being respected by Marvin, I think it
Mm,
was something that we were not used to, and especially with the motto of the school and the principles of the school, you know, strong, empowered females who, you know, are essentially going to go and change the world. I
mm,
think that him coming in and being this very brash and like my way or the highway type of person, and
yeah.
then us used to feeling respected as we should be, I think definitely it was probably a very stark change.
Yeah, because especially you can kind of get the sense from watching the show that this is someone who's like in the news as like a kind of like reviled figure. Like you can just imagine reading about someone or seeing them like, in the news and suddenly they're standing in front of you in a position of authority. I mean, I would imagine just for the girls in that situation, that must have been like a pretty surprising, jarring, there's different synonyms you could use. But yeah, I mean, for sure, it's definitely a great premise, I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and actually, obviously, I would guess for you at the moment, Big Shot would be kind of like, center stage, so to speak. So, like, do you have anything else in the horizon you can talk about?
Yeah, Big Shot definitely. I'm so excited for it to come out. You know, we worked on it for so long. I'm just glad that
Mm,
it's finally for people to see. And in the meantime, you know, I'm still making my own music. I still love singing, and I'm really looking forward to kind of developing that. And I honestly feel like quarantine helped me a lot with my music too, because there was a lot of like using it as an escape or using it as a way to kind of, you know, like just relax at the end of the day and be like, what am I feeling? Let it out. And I think I honestly developed a lot as an artist. So I'm excited for the new music I'm going to make. And I feel really
yeah,
proud of it. So looking forward to releasing that sometime soon, hopefully.
yeah, and best of luck, I suppose, like with that endeavor. Just out of curiosity, because I've spoken to a few like active musicians, and like which way around did you discover those passions? Because at least so far I've seen a pattern. I'm just wondering if you'll also be in the same like vein as the other people I've spoken to.
Yeah, I think I found music first for sure. I
Mm,
mean, I've been
yeah,
seeing since I could talk, and I've been like I was dancing on like we used to put our Christmas wrapping for like presents inside this like box, and I used to
yeah,
literally get on the box, pretend it was my stage, and like sing as a baby. So
mm,
that's how I even found acting, because I just wanted to sing and dance, and I was like, well, musical theater, you got to act too, and so then
yeah.
I just started acting, and I've just kind of been going ever since.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. Everyone I've spoken to so far who does both, it's been music first and then the acting. So there's clearly
Yeah.
there's clearly some kind of connectivity in those two areas for sure.
Yeah, it's a way
Yeah,
to express yourself both ways. And it's like at the end of the day, both of them are storytelling. Whether you're writing a song or telling a story on screen that you didn't write or that you did write, you know, I look forward to producing my own stuff and writing my own stuff as well in the future. So basically just trying to be a multi-hyphenate everything. I
mm,
love it all. And so I don't know, we'll see
yeah,
where the future takes me.
yeah. Like someone I spoke to, I think, put a really um like accurate way, which is that obviously when you're acting, you're playing a character, but in your case, you just say that music is more like personal and it's not so much a character, it's more kind of representing yourself, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so. I think some of the best songs are even things that are kind of based off of who you are, but then like every good story needs a little embellishment, you know?
Mm,
So I think finding that kind of mix is probably where I thrive the most. And it's definitely something I take into my acting too. I mean, every time I get like new sides for Destiny or a new episode for Destiny, it's like, how can I put myself in this to the point where it's authentic to me and my mannerisms, but still
mm.
authentic to the story? So it's definitely, you got to mix the two.
Yeah, and actually just kind of shifting back to Big Shot, just because we're recording this before the whole season has come out. So I suppose, what would you want to say to anyone? Because what episode came out? Because today is a Friday, so an episode
Yeah.
came out today. So what episode number was it?
Last night was episode 8. Or
8, right. So
today.
there's still 2 episodes left. So I suppose anyone who was on episode 8 in their time listening to this and they've got those 2 left, like what could you tease about it?
I would say definitely keep watching. You're gonna be on
Hmm.
the edge of your seat, and everything is not as it seems.
Hmm. Great tease.
Thanks.
Very like ambiguous. I think trying to keep people guessing, right?
There's so much that happens that like I know with my big mouth I'm gonna say something wrong. I nearly did in our initial press circuit before any of the episodes came out, because I'm
Right.
so excited for people to see it. Like even when we were just filming it, we'd be like in the middle of a scene and in my mind I'm like, oh my god, that just happened. Like it's
Mm.
crazy. So I'm excited for people to see it. It's so good, and the twists and turns, they don't stop all the way up to the end.
Have you seen anyone like predict online anything that's going to happen, or like do you think people can be caught off
Yes.
guard completely? Or they have? People have
They
guessed
are.
it.
People are like digging and they're so close. It's crazy. They're very, very close. Very.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure it'd be great to get the validation for them once it
Yeah.
does unfold, for sure. I suppose then, like professionally or personally, like what do you hope to accomplish with the rest of this year?
Well, the music, as I said.
Yeah.
And I really am looking forward to kind of working on my own projects. You know, I really believe in diversity and representation. And I think that as, you know, a Blasian actor was something that I didn't grow up with. I have a really special place right now to be able to kind of help take that seat that we're kind of leaning towards, of showing diverse stories and showing accurate diverse representation and kind of going away with the stereotypes. And so I look forward to kind of helping with that movement and producing my own stuff and trying to make
Mm.
my own little name in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. And that was actually all like the pre-prepared questions I had with me. But I suppose maybe then to like round this off, like what would you want to say? And I know I just said like what would you want to tease, but what would you want to say to like fans of the show who've been watching, and like just as a sentiment?
Well, first off, thank you guys so much. I mean, this is my first kind of big project, and to see the amount of love that we've gotten and the amount of just support and the amount of people like asking for a season 2 or asking when the next
Mm.
episode's out. Like I have people who like text me from countries I've never even thought of going to. It's crazy the amount of reach, and I'm just really glad that my story's been able to reach some of you guys and help some of you guys and connect with honestly anyone. Like I would have been happy if you connected with one person, but to think that there's so many amazing, beautiful
Mm.
people that have reached out to all of us girls, it really means a lot to us, and it warms our heart to see you. And we'll see you for the next 2 Fridays till the end.
Great, great. And again, like, as I was saying earlier, best of luck with the rest of the season and with your music.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just in general, thanks for taking the time again to speak with me, and take care and stay safe.
You too. Thank you so much for having me again.